Welcome, everybody, to Build Crew episode number 2. I'm here with some amazing guests, and including a Build Crew guest, which is kind of fun. So we'll wait a couple minutes to let everybody stream in live, but we're joining from around the world. While we wait for some guests to come in, I'll introduce our amazing speakers in a second, but hopefully you're here because you're interested in Build Crew. It's our community for builders who are using agents. We want to equip you to be better, stronger, faster, to build more with agents. And we're just going to share a ton of tips and tricks. And ideally, you get out of here being an even better developer. Whether you use AMP or Cursor or Codex or whatever you use, you're going to be a better developer with agents by the time you get out of here. If you want to join our community, though, it's free. Just head to buildcrew.team. We also throw $100 of credit into your account. So that's always fun. So let's get rocking. We've got some friends from around the world. We'll start with Thorsten calling in from Germany. Thorsten, how you doing? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Thorsten, live from Germany here. One of the co-creators of AMP, still an engineer on the AMP team too. And yeah, second time here.
Let's do it. So fun fact about you, you also are a musician. So why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about that?
Well, I was, like I'm not anymore, but at a certain point in my life, I really did try to make it as a guitar player, but the guitar is in the background, but I don't know. Other hobbies have shown up in the last few years.
Plus you're a parent now, and that just takes all of your time. So, but I would say once you're a musician, you're always a musician, at least in my heart. So
that's true.
It's good to have you here. Next up, we've got Nikolai, who I call Nico because that's more fun. Nico, why don't you say hi and introduce yourself real quick?
Hey, I'm Nico. I've never been a musician. I'm also an engineer on the AMP team. And I'm also like Thorsten, I'm coming in from Germany, the better part of Germany, of course, from Munich.
Don't start that.
With Thorsten's background, the only thing I was always wondering is like how many times he kicked over the stack of books he has.
Maybe never. So,
no, never.
Nico,
it's pretty stable.
It's pretty stable. It's good to have you here as well. So, as we said, Thorsten was one of the original creators and of AMP itself, and is our kind leader, we would say internally. I won't share your internal term, but but Nico, tell everybody kind of what you work on in AMP day to day.
Yeah, lots of things. I'm mostly in the core and doing model tuning a lot. So model tuning basically means when a new model pops up and we get access to it, I try to make it work or not make it work within AMP, and basically decide, okay, is the model worth it? Could it become the primary agent, or could we build any interesting custom sub-agents like the Oracle Thorsten built with the new models that are coming out?
Exciting. Cool. Yeah, it's fun to collaborate with you.
We should say that Nico actually has a legit background, right? Like your background is actually machine learning / AI, right?
He knows stuff.
Yeah, he knows stuff. Yeah.
My background is in reinforcement learning mostly, and started early in LLM. So I got lucky and started in 2019 with a few nice Microsoft models, and then continued on with GPT-3 and started fine-tuning for a bunch of different companies in Germany.
Yep. So you actually understand things like matrix multiplication. I'm proud of you. Good to have you here. So, and finally, we have an amazing build crew here, Tim, who has an awesome last name. So Tim, really good to have you here. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Tim. I'm first and foremost a build crew member, and here to learn and having a lot of fun just being a part of this community. So I don't come from a technical background. I've been a product manager for a couple of years. So I've been code adjacent and working alongside engineers for a really long time. I've had a lot of in-depth conversations on APIs and bugs and, going to market and, building features that our users would want. But I've never done it myself. So vibe coding and contextual prompt engineering has really opened up a whole new world for me. And I am loving it. Like I wake up at 4 a.m. thinking about this. I'm up late at night thinking about this. So I I'm so in, and it's so much fun. And I say that in a previous career, I used to make surf movies and travel around the world to tropical locations. And I think this is more fun. So I don't know.
I'm impressed by that. And I feel like I guess you've A/B tested your life, and you've done what we all wish we would have done.
Exactly.
This is more fun. So, but it feels like you put on the infinity gauntlet, doesn't it? Like when you use an agent, whether it's, AMP or whatever, it gives you this bonkers power. I guess that's maybe what you like.
I mean, yeah, like the feeling, like it's, I have an idea, I'm passionate about something, I want to go build it, and now I can. And, very quickly, it's always kind of funny, like when you're talking to an agent, it's like, this will take 6 weeks, and like 30 minutes later, it's there, right? It's real, it's tangible, so you can feel it. And so for someone like me that, it was always like not inaccessible, but I had to, lean on others to create something, to build something. And now I don't. Like, it's just me and my laptop. So it's an amazing feeling. Yeah,
absolutely. We're seeing some fans start to join in and comment. So please, if you're watching this, throw a comment in, tell us where you're calling in from, number one. And any comments you have or questions, tell us what you're building, and we'll call out some of those comments on screen. I see Bruno's joined us, and he says,
Bruno's here.
Hey, Bruno, good to see you. What a team. He said, I couldn't believe it when I heard you had joined SourceGraph. I'm a huge fan of yours. Appreciate you being here, Bruno. We're going to keep sharing knowledge and try to make you better and better. So thanks for stopping by. So we've got
Ryan, do I need to create an anonymous account to ask Tim questions, or can I submit a...
I think you could do both, or you could, but it'd probably be more natural for you just to ask them.
Can I ask one quick question that I'm really curious about?
Okay.
As I want to ask about the surfing too, but as a or still product manager, I assume, how do you think like agentic coding is going to change the PM engineering relationship, or even the role definitions?
Yeah, it's changing a lot, because I am still a product manager. I do have a day job, and I think that you can just do a lot more now. So in my day job, I'm not volunteering to write code yet. I'm still hands off there, but I think what it allows product managers to do is, I can quickly prototype something, and I can do it very fast. So I'm also not a designer, but I know my way around Figma pretty well, and I'm dangerous enough to do something there. But that's still a slower process, right? Like just spin up a prototype really quickly, and then it would help me, author more thorough requirements. Figure out like what is this product that we're trying to build? Let's shape it a little bit. And you can do that before bringing it to the engineering team to get their feedback, input, and execution. Because still, human time is still the most valuable resource, right? And especially with startups, which is kind of my cup of tea, you have a limited amount of time to go and build something and improve product market fit and get users or customers. So speed to execution is huge. And
amen.
This just lets you just move faster and figure it out and make mistakes that you're going to make anyways. That's okay. You learn from them. Yeah. You just fail forward.
I love that. Thorsten, I know you were talking about in your interview on Latent Space about the triangle and how, dev, product designer, product manager, designer is like quickly becoming a blob. It is pretty wild. Like I'm seeing as like a former CEO founder, like I can do this whole stack. I'm like, what? This is insane. Okay. So today we've got a packed agenda, really excited to get into it. Want to call out some more friends calling in. Justine says, what is up, gentlemen? Calling him from Singapore at midnight. Love it. Thanks for tuning in. Rosh is excited about Build Crew, some extra rockets. And we've got Ben calling in from Austin. So good to see you all. Please keep telling us where you're calling in from. Post your comments. post your questions and we'll tackle them live. So we've got a couple exciting things on the agenda. So Thorsten is going to share first one of his tips for coding better with agents. Then we're going to talk to Tim a little bit and ask him, what is he building? What is he learning? How's it going? And then we're going to go to Nico with a tip that he's going to share. And then we're going to make sure we answer all your questions. And want to say hi to Brennan, who's calling in from Toronto. Good to have you here, Brennan. So let's go to Thorsten sharing his amazing tip or anti-tip. Over to you.
Yeah, it's a not amazing tip. It's a boring tip. So what we're looking at here is, this was last week. I was working on the CLI VS Code integration. So we actually launched this today, but this wasn't meant to be like a look at us, multi-channel marketing announcements here. But basically, the AMP CLI can now connect to VS Code, and it can see the open files that you have open in VS Code or the current text selection. Problem was, there was a little bug or a missing feature that the first time you would connect the CLI to VS Code, it didn't know about your open files. You had to switch the tabs, like everybody who's ever programmed or whatever knows something like this. So what I want to show here is that before I sat down to write this prompt, I basically already knew what the issue is and how I would fix it, which is, when the user first connects or the client connects, we send the list of open files down to the CLI. I'm also confident enough to say that I think I could have written this on my own, but I didn't, and basically just instructed that, look at this file, look at how it's used by this, and here's the problem. Please do this. And this is not the most sophisticated prompt of all time, but the point, there you go. I said, let's do a slow reveal here. I didn't know this was in there, but basically it did this. It sent the currently visible files. Sweet, right? But then blah, blah, blah. And then I said, it should send everything, right? The visible files, the selection. Again, I knew what the issue was. I knew that this wasn't the complete fix. I knew it had to do more. And then of course it says, you're absolutely right.
Right.
You're absolutely right. And then they didn't implemented it, and I then tested it and manually tested it. I actually went through the code again, and I think I even removed a bunch of stuff. Okay. Actually, I'm not sure. I don't think that was this one. But the point I'm trying to make with this tip is that these conversations or threads or agent invocations or whatever you want to call it, they can be super small. Like they can be like, hey, type out these 4 functions for me. And I would still argue that you still get a speed up, because in this particular case, as I said, like I can do a lot of, stuff. I could write this on my own, but then it's like, wait a second, VS Code, how do I get the active editor again? Right. Then, okay, how do I get the URI, yes, AMP tab could have helped with this. How do I get the selection content? Like this is all stuff where previously I would Google and look up APIs and whatnot. Yep. And here it's just, I don't know, like it's just, it saves me the typing. And my point is, don't always go for big long features or big things. You can use these agents to just type out some code for you that you actually would know how to write, and you will still get a speed up, and it makes it easier to review. So when in doubt, keep conversations small. That's my tip.
Small little task. Let AMP crank it out.
Can I also ask a question?
No, Nico, you can't. Okay, this time. Go ahead.
I'm curious about Thorsten, because it's for me as well. Like I think you still use NeoVim a bit again. Like when do you actually grab NeoVim? When do you use refactoring tools? Because like what I often catch myself, I'm sometimes just too lazy to use them nowadays. So I just tell the agent to do like a simple rename.
Yeah, I think so. I mostly use VS Code nowadays because we use TypeScript, as you've seen, and don't ask me about how to set up the formatter and the ESLint and the whatever you have and fixing the imports and VS Code. I don't type that much code by hand anymore. So what I do is easy to do in VS Code. And yes, like sometimes, like, I don't know, if I have to extract functions or something, then I might ask the agent, but yeah, like it's gotten less and less. You could argue that, okay, us as working on the empty, we don't have to pay for these tokens. If I had to pay for the token to rename the tokens required to rename a function, maybe I would use the rename functionality more or something.
Yeah. Maybe.
But still, like, there's something with like fixing. There's a sweet spot where like the agent does something, and then you automatically have tools that fix the imports or the formatting and whatnot. And I think that's a really good place to be in. But in general, yeah, like I'm become pretty lazy with just moving code around.
Let's ask Tim that. So Tim, what about you? Are you having AMP or an agent do everything for you, or are you hand typing any code anymore? Kind of where are you at?
I don't write code. So that, yeah, I mean, I'm reliant on the agent to do everything, which has gotten me in trouble a couple of times, where I've had to like find my way out of a hole, a dark hole that I don't know how I got into. But and that's frustrating. That's not the fun part that I was talking about earlier. But I think that's probably reality, right? I think engineers go through that too, like, you know, finding a bug or whatnot. So
yeah. So you're mostly having AMP do everything, and I'm in that camp now where mostly AMP is writing all my code. I review all of it, but I'm writing very much and less of it. So actually, everybody listening, throw it in the comments. Like, how much are you handwriting code these days? 100%, 0%, somewhere in between. Let us know. We'll throw up some of those comments on the screen. It's interesting because I've learned, you know, my previous world and life was teaching people how to code at Treehouse, and what's interesting is I'm learning a lot by letting AMP write the code and then reviewing it. And I actually am learning a lot about DevOps and you know, CI, CD, and all this just by watching AMP do things. So Justine's at 1%. I'm probably at 98% my code. Ben is at 10% handwritten. Interesting. So we'll keep going to some more tips and tricks. Everybody throw in the comments how much are you writing of your code these days? You know, I'm at probably 2 to 5%. So I want to show a quick tip and actually share my screen real fast. So this is something I did today that I really, really enjoyed. So let me find. All right, let's make this a little larger for everybody. A little bit larger. Here we go. A little larger. I'm actually going to close NeoVim. Okay. So what I'm showing you here is Ghosty. So Ghosty is my terminal emulator that I code, and you could, you know, if you're a terminal person, you could use iTerm or terminal on the Mac, et cetera, et cetera. I use Ghosty. I love it. And then on the left, I've got my dev server running. I'm primarily a Next.js TypeScript type of person. And on the right, I've got AMP running. But this is something I kicked off today, and I was really happy with how this went. So you can see my prompt was, I want you to sign in with a dev test account and go through the entire case details process, which is 14 steps. I'd like you to use Playwright and add information for every single field. Wherever there's an optional field, add at least one example. Report back any errors and make sure to watch the server log as you do it for errors, right? So this has been a huge unlock, is I have Next.js pipe all of the front end console logs to the back end. So I have all my logs in one unified place. And this has been a huge unlock. So on the left, I mean, you can see you've got front end logs, you've got back end logs. And what I do is I actually log that to a file. And then I ask in my agent's MD file, I tell the agent, you can tail this log anytime, you know, and by default, look at the last 100 lines and just look at this. Like, man, this cranked through. So this went through the entire, I did have to say continue, which was a little weird this morning. But look at this. So it went through all 14 steps and then awesome, it found a bug. So right here, found a bug on step 5. So this was a really wonderful way to test the front end. Now, there's a couple of things to remember as you do this. Number one, have all of your front end and back end logs combined into one file. tell your agent in your agent's MD file to look at that file and how to do it. And then thirdly, make sure you've got Playwright or some MCP installed so that the agent can use the browser. Playwright is the only MCP I have installed. I love it. And then fourthly, make sure you have a dev account with a username and password that the agent can sign into your local environment so it can actually use the app. So just wanted to share that. That was just delightful this morning. AMP found 2 bugs and fixed both of them. I actually asked the Oracle to look at the first bug to crank it out, and it just crushed it. So thought that was really helpful. Got a couple more people commenting. Alex writes less than 1% of his code now by hand, which is interesting. Brennan says, my goal is to hit 0% hand coding, which is interesting. Nikolai, where are you at? What percentage of your code are you handwriting these days?
I think it really depends. In the last few days, I had a really frustrating one where it was all me because it was touching. Sorry?
100% Nico.
Yeah, which I hadn't had for a long time. And because it was throwing so many mistakes in there, and it was like, it wasn't the easiest thing to build. It was touching a lot of different parts in the code base. And it was hitting like streaming injection, so it had to do event handling, injecting extra stuff in the stream. And yeah, it was a weird thing to build, so it made it overly complex. Yeah. And so I had to do it myself. Otherwise, I would say like a good 75, 80%.
Is written by AMP or you?
By AMP.
Wow, so you're at like 20 to 25%.
Well, let me jump in. How do you design? Do you upfront decide whether you're going to write it by hand or not, or is it you writing by hand if the agent can't do it?
If I get frustrated enough, I write by hand. So it can sometimes be literally like I'm sitting there 2 to 3 hours and it's driving me up a wall, and then I decide I'm just gonna do it myself.
Yeah. I because I think like, I've had this argument with some people, not with some people. Like I posted on Twitter and then somebody was like, what do you mean? That wasn't an argument. But my point is you need to learn how to work with these agents. It's not, go and build me this and then just wait for it to show up. I think you develop a certain intuition of how to prompt things and how to size what you want to get out of the agent in a specific session. And for me, the other thing that I learned is there's certain areas of the code base where I'm completely fine with not understanding exactly how it works. Most extreme example, some test cases or some front-end storybooks or UI things, right? I don't care. Or a script to test the test database. Like, right. I don't really care. But like load-bearing stuff in the middle of the code base, I really want to know how everything works line by line. And that's often where I try to get the agent to do it, but then I jump in and rewrite it or refactor it or rename stuff. But basically, I'm going to touch every line just so I have like a mental model of how it actually works.
Yeah. So usually I assume when he can't do something, it's not well specified by me on what to do and how to implement it. And I think this was the case as well, but it also took some discovery on my end. Like it produced a bunch of solutions, and through that, I actually came up with how I want to implement it.
Yeah.
But still, it was really hard to communicate it.
So that's the other thing, right? Like sometimes you don't know and then you want to wing it. But I think that's also what you learn. You realize from the start, this is most likely not going to work out, but I'm just going to go let it write the code just so I know more about the problem, right?
Yeah. I think this is where background agents can be fun too. Like at night, you could kick off some of those exploratory jobs and then wake up and see, interesting, how did the agent tackle this? And kind of pick your favorite. So we've got a product manager on the call, right? So Tim, are you getting a sense for how much your agent, whether it's AMP or not, can bite off and chew, or how do you tackle the size?
I am. I'd love to show you my workflow in a minute here, but just a comment on this last conversation. The engineers that I talk to, I've kind of like over the last 6 months or so have been like sort of poking around, like, hey, what do you guys think of this, agentic coding thing? And generally, I think the tide is shifting, but generally the response I get is, yeah, it's not really there yet. It's okay. Or sometimes I'll use it to see how they would set it up in terms of structure or whatnot. And I think that there's almost like a perspective where they're kind of like, it won't do as good a job as me, a human writing code. My perspective, I approach it from the opposite perspective. I'm like, what can this do for me? Like, because I couldn't write any code, right? So I look at it like anything that an AI can spit back at me is a net positive.
Is better than you.
Well, it's better than me, but and I also think it's good enough, like, because I'll run a build in Xcode and then I'll, check out what I'm working on. And I just think it's fantastic. Like, wow, look, I have buttons and navigation and I can execute these things that this app is intended to do. So
that you couldn't do before. I mean, but what's interesting is you'll find, like, over the next 12 months, you will become a better and better engineer. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, like, actually, I don't like the way the agent implemented this. I'm going to go in and slightly change it. Or the thing with TypeScript is that happens all the time, is like, wait a minute, I'm sure we've defined this type somewhere else. Like, why are you trying to find it here? So
yeah.
Graham is here. What's up, Graham? How you doing?
I'm alive, and it's a fake microphone because I have to do this on I'm trying to join from the office setup, and so the microphone's still here. It just feels weird. Might as well have it to look official, but
you look cool.
Yeah.
So why don't you quickly introduce yourself to everyone who's watching?
Hey everybody, Graham Rendevrel here at AMP, and just been building stuff for a long time and running the build crew community. Get to meet people like Tim, which is super fun to sort of see how everyone's building. The most fun thing, I think, is we've got all these people that are solo entrepreneurs now, but what you forget is how lonely that is. And so build crew's been fun. We do these what do you call them, stand-ups every day, and so I've got all these people building these incredible projects that I get to hear about, and I don't have to write any of the code. So happy to be here, glad to join today.
It's good to have you here. Glad you fought the traffic. So we've got a bunch of comments coming in, including from Twitch. So Thorsten, good job streaming to Twitch. We've got 7ZI who says the only thing devs need to touch is some grass. So that's always important. And Brian Scully joined us. Thought we were on Discord, but realized we're on X. So good to have you here, Brian. Thanks for watching. And Brendan's got a good little tip. I have a little ESLint rule that yells at the agents when they re-add types randomly. Gosh, that's a good tip, actually. I need to do that. All right. So let's keep cranking. We've got some more tips and tricks to share. Again, if you're tuning into the show and you just got here, this is Build Crew Live. We have a community for people who are building with agents. It's free, and we want to welcome you no matter what agent you're using. Just head to buildcrew.team, sign up for free. If you use AMP or you want to try AMP, we also throw $100 of credit in your account. So come on over. We've got over 560 people already in the group, and we'll probably hit 1,000 pretty soon. So come on over and join the fun. Let's go next to Nikolai with his agentic tip for coding, and we'll take it away, Nico.
Can someone share my screen? Make it appear.
The magic of Nico's screen will hopefully appear soon.
It's gonna happen.
Hey, nice. So, as opposed to Thorsten, I'm still on Neovim, and it's like, I think on X especially, a lot of people have been talking about MCPs are bad and you should get rid of them, or they pollute the context window. And it's like, I'm largely in agreement, but the question is always like, so what? So how are you going to replace it with? And I think especially for people who are working in the enterprise, you have a really structured workflow. Usually you work on an issue, so the thing you start with is usually already documented somewhere where all the interesting documentation is. And we build slash commands in a slightly different way than, for example, Claude Code, and I think most of the others have it. I think they only use Markdown, and you have some custom templating language which you can use to inject the output of bash commands. And for me, I always wanted something scriptable that I can also actually pipe into the agent, and I can actually test to see whether the output is working. Because usually I'm doing API call when I'm writing bash scripts, or I'm doing something a little bit more fancy. And as an example, this is one I use to work on a linear issue. And what it basically does, it takes the issue number, it has a pretty fancy GraphQL query, which it uses to take the issue number and basically pull down the issue description and all the comments which are in there. And in the end, I just basically echo out a command which asks it to basically, hey, review the issue, review the code base, look through the code base, and come up with a plan that has the required code changes, impacts, necessary tests. So I'm trying to produce an artifact which I can review and then basically kick off the agent to do its work.
Oh wow! How did you make this? Tell everyone how it works.
I asked AMP to make it. So I just went onto the linear documentation, copy and pasted the URL, threw it into AMP, told it, hey, write me the GraphQL query and the API request. And it produced it. In the end, I wrote the prompt to basically come up with the prompt and how to behave. And I can basically now just trigger it. And in linear, you always have like this short morsel, like MC for the organization and the issue number. And it basically executes it, it pulls this in, and it basically sends it instantly as a prompt.
Wow. That's so
and
cool.
Similar, you can do the same stuff, for example, for resolve PR comments. So if someone like Thorsten left a bunch of comments on my PR, I could just pull it in. And it does something very similar. It basically does a GraphQL query, pulls in all the inline comments, and basically gets it down, and then does the same again. Basically review the code base, look at what changes are necessary, and produce a plan for it, so I can review the plan and then actually kick it off to do the edits.
Gosh, this is so cool. So everybody watching, just to make sure you understand the context. So what Nico is doing here is using a custom slash command, basically. And so various agents have custom slash commands in AMP. We call them tools inside of a toolbox. And it's just a markdown file, or you can use a bash script, which is what this is.
Or any other script. So any scriptable language like Python, TypeScript, whatever you want.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So, and you basically, like with anything, with any agent, that what you want to do is copy in the documentation and say, here's documents on how to do this. Here's what I want you to do. And so I copied in the URL for the AMP manual for how to make a tool. And I said, I want the tool to do this thing, make it for me. And it did. You can really, like Nico's saying, if MCPs sound like too much, or you're not allowed to use them, or they're polluting your context window, use a tool like this, because it is a deterministic way to get something done.
Custom slash commands are basically user triggered. Tools are also the same thing. They're scripts, but which are triggered by the model. So they are slightly different. But in the end, like when you look at all MCP servers, which are basically out there, it's most of them have way too much stuff in terms of how many tools they expose. And most of them also expose way more arguments than are necessary. So for example, if I'm doing want to pull down a PR, whether I'm doing it with a custom slash command or I'm doing it with a custom tool. In the custom slash command, I only have to give one thing, because I am already know in which repo am I in, which organization I belong to. So the only thing I need is the issue number. And also, if I give it a custom tool, I can also only give it only one argument, which is basically the number of the pull request. So I can already preset all of the other stuff, which makes it way easier to call for the model, and also it pollutes the context window less.
Right. It's so rad. Thorsten, you about to say something?
Basically this, yeah. That, I can add another thing, which is that, and I talked to somebody about, they sent me an email asking about like MCP tools and, discovering of tools. And I said, there's a lot of overlap between these concepts of MCP and what we call the toolbox, which is script stored and invoked by the agent, and the custom slash commands. And there's a lot of overlap, and we're not saying use this only for this and use this only for that. We're still figuring this stuff out, as is everybody. But what we found is what Nico said, that sometimes you want deterministic invocation of a script and put the output inside the context window. And do you want the agent to trigger it? Use the toolbox. Do you want to trigger it yourself? Use a custom / command.
Yeah, this is so great. So I have an rs / command that restarts my dev server. So I use Tmux, and I have my dev server always running in pane 3, like just kind of where it is. And when I was asking AMP to restart the dev server, just saying, please restart the dev server, it wouldn't always target the right pane correctly. Or it wouldn't send the keystrokes for some reason, right? And so what I did is I created a custom / command, which is just rs, which basically just says restart dev server. So it's like a snippet. And then that triggers the tool, which is a bash script to programmatically, deterministically restart the dev server. And I'll tell you all, like, when there's something you're doing over and over again and you want it to be deterministically done by the agent, like creating these custom / commands or tools, it will make you so much happier as a dev. So
yeah,
cool.
I sort of feel like everyone sort of hates on MCP. That's like the cool thing to do. A month ago, the cool thing to do was to make everything an MCP, and then now the cool thing to do is to hate on MCP. And it sort of feels like XML was the first way that we had things interact, and then JSON came along, and we may just still be in the XML era. And if you're an XML lover, sorry, but I think that's part of what's going on here. It's like you said, Thorsten, like we just don't know. Everything's so new. Everyone expects robust, enterprise grade tooling, and the answer is like somebody came up with this a month ago, and it's moving so fast. We're trying to push it to production, but it's like we just all need to keep trying, and most importantly, keep sharing so that we can all learn from each other.
And I mean, one other thing to mention is, if the goal is I want to reliably, or in an automatic way, I want to get something in the context window of the agent, right? That's super abstract thing to say, but that's roughly what all of this solves, right? With MCP, if you're saying like, oh, I want a little test command or a nice little workflow, whatever it is, I would say the barrier to build something is still higher. Like the agents are pretty good at building MCP servers, but the bash script that Nico showed, they can knock this out 99% of the time without any mistake, like 100-line bash script. And then you can just run it. You can test it. You can tell the agent how to test it. And then you can just use it. And I think we're all figuring this stuff out, right? In the company, you want maybe a central Slack MCP running somewhere remotely. But as an engineer working on a code base, you want your own little custom tools. So
yeah, all the time. So I'm sharing my screen real quick to show you this custom bash script to basically get my dev server restarted. And and of course AMP wrote this for me, right? But basically it's checking, here's the name of the tool, Tmux restart dev server. And this is the description, which tells the agent when to do it. And then it just checks, okay, do I already have a session running called Untangle? Okay, grab the pane number from that. Because it's possible I had restarted or closed a pane number. So, and this works 100% of the time. I've never had this fail. So having this deterministic tool call is just like heaven. I love it. All right. So we've got some more comments coming in. Everybody in the crowd, thanks for tuning in. Jake Snake Dev said, that's a sweet command and even sweeter NeoVim theme. What is it? Nico, what's your NeoVim theme?
Thorsten, you influenced me.
It's Groovebox Darkheart or Groovebox Darkheart, right? Is how some people pronounce it.
Oh man, I'm a cappuccino or cappuccino guy. That's me.
Well, still, not.
I have to say, like, cappuccino for Markdown is way better.
Oh.
Okay, let's jump to the next section, please.
All right. Let's keep going. Okay. So next up, we want to talk a little bit to Tim. So Graham, would love you to sort of asked him a little about himself and what he's building and what he's making at Build Crew, and then we'll keep going from there.
Yeah, Tim, thank you so much for joining today. It's really been fun to, like I said, we do these daily stand-ups and we get to hear from everybody building stuff. And it sounds like you, before you started working on this, weren't even a full-time engineer. And so you've been able to leverage these tools to start building something on the side. So would love to just like a little bit about your background, and then maybe we could jump into what you're building.
Yeah, you showed up late, but I'm not an engineer at all. I'm a product manager. So
right. No, I remember. Yeah. I was trying to be kind. Sorry.
No. It's all good. But I was saying earlier, for a long time I've worked with engineers and alongside engineers and talked to them about different technical problems or implementations. But I never wrote code. I can read a little bit of code, and I'm familiarizing myself with it every day. But I'm still like a novice and kind of jealous of everyone else on this call. And you guys are talking about NeoVim, and I see that everywhere. And I'm like, I got to get in on this thing, So I'm really like at the beginning stages, and I'm having so much fun building in public because I'm also have no shame because I don't know what I'm doing. So if I do something wrong, it's like, well, okay, you live and learn, right? So and like you said, sometimes building solo can be lonely. So it's great to, connect with others here, and happy to sort of share what I'm working on and what works for me and my mistakes, and hope that, a rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say you don't have to use NeoVim. Don't let the lead coders influence you. I refuse to be part of any party that will have me. But no, I feel like you can spend a lot of time, especially if you're new to software engineering, you can spend a lot of time following the Twitter discourse and downloading new things to try and optimize. And the best thing you can do is use a terrible setup until it breaks, and then spend some time to relax. So don't feel like you need to chase all the cool things, and none of us will ever be Thorsten, so we just can try our best.
Well, I think you'll see in a minute here how primitive my setup is.
Well, okay, then bring it on. Let's roast you. But
let's see it.
let's share something you're working on.
Okay, so in stand-up last week, we were talking about, I ran into like, what did I call it? The hole of darkness or something like that, where, I got into a bug and I couldn't get out, and I kept asking the Oracle.
Yeah, the loop of doom. There we go. That's what it was.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone's been there. So, the takeaway was, don't ask the AI or LLM to do too much. Break the problem down into much smaller problems. And I've done that and I've had success, but my takeaway now is I got to keep doing that. I have to go smaller and smaller. So what you're looking at here, so I'm building an app, I'm calling it Maxed. It's all about nutrition and exercise. So, how do you get healthy? That's something I'm really passionate about. So this is all my documentation for the app. So, I have a mermaid diagram, I have all these different PRDs, product requirement documents, and this is kind of everything. So there is a scanning feature where you can take a picture of your meal, and the AI will say like, this is how many calories, these are the macros, and you can make sure that you're hitting your goals. So as you could imagine, there's a lot in here, and I definitely had AI help write all of this, flesh out my PRD. But you can't just, say, hey, AMP or Oracle, like, go implement this. I tried and I failed.
What's your prompt to generate the PRD? Do you just have a one you use all the time, or do you use a product? Or
that's a good question. This was a while ago. I think I probably did this in Claude, and I maybe used Claude Opus. And what I did is I because I'm a product manager, I drafted an initial draft, and I said, what am I missing? Flush this out for me. And then there was definitely some back and forth. Sometimes the LLM comes with stuff that, is not relevant, or, I can just dismiss. But it helps me think about like big picture stuff, like what am I missing? And then little details. Oh yeah, like that's a great note. That was an oversight. So it's a little bit more casual, I guess.
Cool.
It's funny is 5 years ago, this was a company on Shark Tank, just the photo scanning, like just an attempt at doing this. And so I
Was it?
love that, like, your this feature was like a whole product. And so because of like the ability to use machine learning and like image capture and stuff from, because I imagine you're taking a photo and you're passing it off to an image recognition LLM and it's giving you the results, and then you're parsing that and sort of then using somewhere else to give you the calorie feedback. Is that a rough outline?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, 5 years ago, this is like $100 million funded startup to try and figure out how to do this. And you're like casually adding it as a feature to a
Now it's
larger
in.
app that you're building. So I just love that. But sorry, I didn't mean to, I hope I
Yeah,
didn't steal. Yeah.
It is
yeah.
amazing.
So what I did to get out of like sort of the loop of death is I did hit the restart button, right? And so I broke this PRD down into like much more granular PRDs, right? So like camera integration, photo validation, AI food recognition service, so that goes out and calls an API called Calorie Mama, and and then what I did in AMP is I basically said, you'll see here I asked the Oracle a lot initially. So let me click in here. So I said, Oracle, parse this PRD. And Ryan, I probably got that tip from you when you were on How I AI with Claire
Oh,
Bow.
cool. Nice.
So, and I said, like, create a multi-phase plan to implement and, ensure the plan is broken into small phases and tasks, and assign sub-agents to implement each task. And then this has been kind of key. I have no idea if this works or not, but I tell it, try to keep the task small enough to keep it within the 20% of the context window. So Graham, we were talking last week, like over 20%, quality kind of goes down and price goes up after that 20% threshold. So
I have a quick question about this. This is interesting that you prompt this way. Thorsten, what do you think an agent, or specifically AMP, would do when you ask it to use sub-agents like this? And do you think this is optimal? You're not going to hurt Tim's feelings if you give feedback on this.
I think, so it's interesting. So basically, when you address the Oracle like this, you actually address the main agent, but the main agent then understands that you want to talk to the Oracle and basically forwards the message, right? Because that's why it wrote like, I'll consult the Oracle. And if you hover over the Oracle call here, this is what the main agent sends to the Oracle, right? And right now, just to throw this in there, people were asking what's the current Oracle model. It's been 03 for a long time, but under the hood right now, we're evaluating GPT-5. There you go. And we still have to make this official, but you're here for the inside info, I guess, at the Build Crew. Yeah, but basically, this is what the main agent sends to the Oracle. It says, parse the PRD, structure the plan with this, and each task should be small enough. And I don't think it included the information about, oh, there you go. Break this into down info that can each implement by subclass using only 20% of the content. So it included this. I don't know what the Oracle makes out of this, but what I do know is that if you tell a model use few tokens, they kind of know what this means. That obviously they cannot say introspect and know that I used 15 or I don't know what, but I think if you say 20%, the message they get is use be efficient, and I think that might help.
Yeah,
I love how sometimes people will try to come up with these like really convoluted ways to only keep it under 20%, and you're just like, what if I just ask it to do that? And it's so, because like Thorsten, you talk about this a lot, that like oftentimes that's actually just the answer. It's like, instead of overcomplicating yourself, like just be explicit, and the models are really good, and they tend to do what you ask. So it's like, it may not officially use 20%, but you got there. So I love it.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
cool.
So this is me unroasting you. Go ahead.
I love it. So Tim, walk us through and tell us, like, in the end, how did this go?
Yeah.
It went better, but it's not, the feature is not fully implemented yet. So I am battling a unbuildable, unsuccessful build in Xcode right now.
Got it. So one thing, after I have my PRD, the reason why the second step is always generate tasks is because my instinct is for, and Thorsten mentioned this, but I agree. Like the more you use these agents, the more you start to understand like how much they can bite off and chew successfully. But say I still have a pretty meaty feature. Like an example was I wanted to implement a 7-day free trial for Untangle instead of a one-time payment. Like it's like, okay, this is going to be some gnarly webhooks and some stuff with Stripe, but I think this is enough for the agent to bite off, but only if I have a detailed list of tasks. And so that's why usually I have the generate PRD step and then the generate task step, which stores all those tasks in a markdown file, because there's this specificity and detail that I think that the agent can get lost on. And the to-dos in AMP are tend to be a little higher level. So Tim, you may try to use the generate task sort of second step if you haven't, and see if that works a little better for you.
I should. I think I used to use that more, and then I think I have been relying on AMP.
Got lazy.
Yeah. I'm an engineer already, right? I'm lazy.
Thorsten and Nico, do you guys ever ask the model to make more detailed tasks and follow those, or no?
Yeah.
No.
So what I do is I'm trying to find the link, but I cannot find it.
Thorsten says yes. Nico says no. Interesting.
Yeah. Well. So what I do is I try to be conscious of the context window, which is every time you talk to an agent, this is all of the stuff that gets sent up to it. And I try to be conscious of what's in it and what do I want to have in it. And that means sometimes I wish I could find a link. They called it something like, maybe Nico knows, like basically when you can ask them on like, analyze this code and give me an overview of how this works, right? And then, these 4 files or whatever. And then you can say, and now drop this information in a file called overview.txt or something. Basically, you take stuff that's in the context window and you put it in a file, right? And they call it something like explicit compaction, because what you're doing is you're taking, not just the compact feature that every agent basically has, where you just have a prompt in the background that summarizes the conversation, but you instruct the agent to put specific information in a file. And then in the next conversation, you can reference that file. So on the weekend, I investigated a bug. I can't pull up the thread because there's curse words in it, but basically I was like, figure out what this bug is. Like, don't try and fix it yet. Like, figure out what the bug is. And then I asked it to fix it and it failed. And then at some point I was like, this is not going to work. Like, we're too deep in the rabbit hole. So I said, everything that you know about this bug, how to reproduce it, what the bug is, your hypothesis to how to fix it, please put this in a file called bug.txt. And then in the I opened a new conversation. I said, like, fix the bug in this thing, right?
Smart.
And it's not planning and it's not breaking down a feature into multiple steps, but it's the same idea of using an invocation of the model to create the distilled version of some plan or whatever data, and then putting it in a new context window and say, like, now follow this.
Yeah. I do the same. Like,
that's smart. Go ahead, Nico.
It's for me, it's always I like to produce like artifacts, whether it's a plan, an overview, a set of hypotheses, which could be the bugs, and use them as the inputs for different models. And also use it to ground it, because I know like a lot of, when I'm doing model testing, a bunch of the models, for example, don't have the 1 million context window, and I know like I won't get this done in 200K, so I put it in a file and just have it churn through it, cross off the first task or the first step, first commit I have, then cross it out and go to the next one, open a new context window. And it also allows me to edit it. So I often pull it up in Obsidian and go through it and actually see whether it makes sense. And I always like, I like specifications more because they tend to be more specific, but I also like to tell it to include the code changes in pseudocode. Because then I actually can refer to it and look whether, hey, does it make sense with what I know about the code base, and actually look in the code as well and adjust based on that.
Oh, I love that. So it sounds like we're all realizing it's good practice to create an artifact and start a new chat and ask the agent to refer to it. I try not to anthropomorphize too much, but it kind of feels like you have this long conversation, you find the problem, and then it's like you need a coffee break. It's like, okay, let's forget about all the messy stuff that we just talked about, because a lot of it is going to be wrong. And the inference of the model as it reviews that is going to get clouded, right? So why not just start fresh with the bug and go?
Yeah, and
the
a
way
lot of
I
it,
think. You go ahead.
I think a lot of it is also vibes, like getting a feel for how well is the conversation going. I think what he wrote, it's like forcing a discussion with the AI before it starts to edit. Like I do this a lot as well, like coming up with a plan, implementation details, whatever. But if I feel like it went off the rails early in the conversation, but I got it to a point where it's actually right with the plan and with what it wants to do, I would rather write it to a file, start a new thread, so basically scratch the conversation and restart with the file, so I have actually a clean thread which doesn't have these like wrong thoughts early in the conversation.
Yeah.
Love it.
I'll even be explicit. Sorry, Thorsten, go ahead.
My mental model is, like sometimes you ask agent to go off and figure out what a bug is, and it has like a bunch of stuff where it goes wrong or it tries a few wrong attempts or something. And the way I think about it is, imagine if your short-term memory wasn't short-term. So basically, somebody sends you off on a task. Ryan says, like, can you grab 2 coffees? I go to the car. There's no gas in the car. I got to go to the gas station. Oh, I forgot my wallet at home. Can I use my phone? Fuck, I got to put the pin in the phone and whatnot. And then the longer I go on until I'm at the coffee shop, I have all of this still in my head. And then the guy asks me, like, what type of coffee you want? And then you go, I just had to go get gas, like you're absolutely right. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I feel like,
or the other analogy is, imagine you have to do some work and it involves 15 different steps and you have one desk and you just never clean your desk up. And I mean, I might offend somebody here who's listening or watching, but imagine everything just piles up on your desk and you cannot move freely because it's just all stuff that's still on your workspace, which is your desk, right? So you gotta want to clean it and get rid of the stuff that you don't need anymore.
Amen.
Yep.
Graham, go ahead.
I always just get really explicit too. Like when I start that new thread and I bring in the summary from the previous thread, I'll even say, like, think about this from a like first principles perspective. Look at all the facts, and I try to I'm almost talking to myself, right? Where I'm like, hey, so sort of ignore all previous instruction in a way, like look at this from a fresh perspective and sort of deep dive and reason out why you think this might be happening. And specifically, we're still talking about bugs here, but often maybe it's just the new context window, and I'm gaslighting myself, but it does feel like that does help, because maybe it is just, I do think that sometimes we're just talking to ourselves through these agents, and that's really what's happening here. But yeah,
Erica, our head of engineering, she said, like, you wouldn't cut fruit on the board on which you just cut chicken, right? Like, you don't want the debugging process to kind of make a mess of the actual food.
So,
I don't know.
As we wind down, if you take one thing away from the way this conversation is, don't cut the fruit where you cut the chicken, people. Okay. So it's very important. So on that note, we're going to wind down. I want to thank all of our amazing guests for hanging out with us today. I want to thank everybody for watching. So thanks everybody for popping in the comments and sharing. Really appreciate you checking in. We're going to be doing this every Tuesday, same time, same place. And we're going to share more and more valuable tips for coding with agents. We're going to bring up build crewers like Tim. So make sure to join Build Crew at buildcrew.team. It's free. We also throw $100 in your account if you use AMP. So Tim, thanks for being here. Where can people find you if they want to follow you?
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, I'm on X. My handle is Tar Productions, and I'd love to connect. It's super fun. So
Good to have you here. And you heard it here. Coding is more fun than making surf movies. Thorsten and Nico, thanks for being here. AMP wouldn't be alive without you. And we appreciate your leadership and your thoughts. So thanks for making time, especially late Germany time. And Graham, thanks
for having us.
All this happen. And everybody, we'll see you next time. And say hi on X and everywhere you are. Take care.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.